Hey there, crafty friends! It's Tina here from the Scrappin Rabbit blog, and I'm so excited to be a featured designer this week over at the Newton's Nook Design Deck the Halls with Inky Paws event. So for my card today, I chose to work with the Christmas Puppy stamp set. Isn't this just the cutest? I love all the images and sentiments. And then I also chose to use the Slimline Frames and Windows die. This is an awesome die set. You get 4 pieces, so you have this window cut out as well as 3 different additional dies. So you can stamp sentiments on them, you can ink them up, you can stamp your images on them. So many different ways that you can use this die. So I chose to make a shaker card with this stamp set and this die set. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp my images. I like to use a Hammermill 80-pound digital cover copy cardstock, and I'm going to prep it with an anti-static powder tool so that way I only have the embossing powder adhering just to the ink. I'm going to arrange the stamps onto my paper the way that I want, and once I get them the way in the arrangement that I like, I'm going to go ahead and grab some ink. Now the ink that I like to use is the VersaFine Black Onyx ink. This is my favorite ink to use for heat embossing, and I'm going to get lots of ink coverage on these stamps and make sure that I have a nice good impression. And then once I have them stamped, I'm going to go ahead and use some clear embossing powder. The clear embossing powder, you want to make sure that you get full coverage on there because you don't want your Copics to be exposed to any of that ink. And so that's what I do, is I make sure that I have nice coverage, and then I heat up my heat tool for a good while so that it's nice and hot, and then that way the embossed image will melt. The embossing powder will melt right away, and that's where the magic happens. I went ahead and cut out all of these images, so I have some for now, some to play with later, and I think that they turned out so cute. To save some time, I went ahead and did my coloring off camera, and I'm super happy with how this little black lab puppy looks, and the other images are just so cute. So to make my shaker, I went ahead and cut out several layers of the frame, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere them together using some liquid glue. Now this takes a little bit of time, but honestly I don't feel like it takes as any longer than trying to snip out some of the double-sided foam tape. And with this I can get the, because the frame is so thin, I don't have to worry about how thick the foam is and getting it on there even and all that. So gluing these together saved me some time, I think, overall. Now I have my thickness there, and so you could see it's a really good size for a shaker. With all of these cuts, I have all these stitched squares to use for a later time, so you want to make sure that you hold on to those and don't let those go to waste. I did cut out one additional frame to go over my plastic cover. So I like to use Duralar, and I believe this is the 5mm size, and so I cut out the size of the large rectangle, and to adhere it I'm going to use this super skinny double-sided adhesive. It can be a little tricky working with this super skinny tape, but just take your time and enjoy the process and have some fun. I'm going around the entire shaker. Now one thing that you do want to do is make sure that you really press down hard on the tape, because I found that some of my sequins kind of snuck through from one box to the next because I didn't seal that tape on there as well as I should have. And so now that I have my tape exposed, I'm going to go ahead and add my little Duralar transparency on there. And then that makes my outside window. Now I'm going to want to cover that up with my last layer of the frame so that that gives it a nice finished look. And I'm going to use that really skinny adhesive again and peel that off and then get that put right over onto the top. And you just want to take the time to make sure that you have it nice and even. When you have squared edges like that, it makes it kind of easy, and you just use your fingers to get them on there until you feel like it's super straight. So now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to add some more of that skinny adhesive, but I'm not going to peel off the tape just yet. I'm going to do that after I fill up my little shaker windows with my sequins. So I prepared this super fun Christmassy mix using some sequins from my stash, and it's so sparkly and so pretty, and it's all in the Christmas traditional colors. I'm going to also use this powdering tool just around the edges to make sure that there's no sticky glue anywhere that the sequins are going to get stuck. And now I'm just kind of eyeballing it and adding some sequins into each one of the little squares. Now looking back, I wished I would have added even more sequins into each one of the squares because they're pretty deep. And I didn't realize that as I was filling it. And I really could have used some more sparkle, but I think that it did turn out okay in the end. Now very slowly and carefully you're going to want to remove that the back of the adhesive because you don't want to shake any of your sequins out. And then now I'm going to line up that second layer of the Duralar to make my shaker window. And it shakes just wonderfully. Again, I wish I would have added more sequins, but it still turned out super sparkly. So now that my shaker is done, I'm moving on and trying to decide what I'm going to use for the sentiment. I did cut out this banner. This is part of that frame die that I was using, and I'm going to stamp and emboss my sentiment, so I'm prepping it the same way I did when I stamped the images. And then I chose the peace, love, and belly rub sentiment. That is my favorite. I think it is so super cute. So I'm stamping that on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the clear embossing powder just like with my images. Gonna get my heat tool all nice and hot, and then I'm going to get that powder nice and melted, and then that will be my sentiment. And then now that I have my sentiment done, it's time to figure out how I'm going to arrange my card. I chose some pattern papers to work with. I felt like the polka dots in the background worked really nicely with the colors in my sequins. And then I cut out a red layer to frame it all to help that pop. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of this skinny double-sided adhesive. And then I'm going to layer that polka dot panel over the back side of there. And then now I feel like my shaker looks complete. So to glue it on to that red polka dot layered panel, I'm going to use some liquid adhesive. I do prefer the liquid adhesive whenever I can use it. I feel like it really does secure my layers, and it lasts a lot longer than the double-sided tape from my many years of crafty experience. Now it's time to arrange my images and my sentiment, and as I'm trying to plan out the card and figure out what I'm going to use, I realize I'm just going to use two of the little pups. And so using some liquid adhesive, I'm going to go ahead and glue this first little black lab puppy down. I think that he's so super cute in that little boot. Now I colored that boot red, thinking that it was more of a stocking. I probably could have done it more like a Santa's boot in black, but I think that the puppy being black really makes that red boot pop. For the center of my shaker, I'm going to go ahead and adhere that little banner with the sentiment, and then the cute little puppy with the scarf is going to go on the top. I wanted to use that little bone, so I thought, how cute is that to stick at the top of that little banner? I'm going to use some double-sided adhesive because it's so super tiny, and I didn't want the liquid glue to ooze through onto the Duralar transparency. So now that I have my shaker done, I'm going to adhere it down onto my slimline card base, again using some of the liquid glue. I feel like I can get that panel on there much more straight than if I had used the double-sided sticky tape as well, because you have a little bit of wiggle room with the liquid glue to get that panel on there straight. I'm going to do a little doodling on the nose and the eyes using a white gel pen, and that's just embellishing my images a little bit more. And I always like to add extra sparkle. So to the polka dots on the scarf, I'm going to use this sparkle marker from Spectrum Noir. And I'm going to color up the gift box as well as the little tiny holly berries. And that is it. That completes my card. It's super sparkly, it's super fun, and it's in the traditional Christmas colors that I love. And I have this cute cutie here to use on another project. So thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel today. I hope you liked my shaker card. I hope you liked my video. Make sure that you head on over to the Newton's Nook blog and check out the other designers. And on Friday there is going to be a blog hop with giveaways, and that sounds like so much fun as well. So I hope you can join us. So that's it for today. Thanks again for stopping by. Until next time, have a wonderful day and happy crafting. Bye for now.